So tell me about the street that you grew up on, what the name of the street was, the city, the state. Tell me what that was.
So I grew up in the south side of Chicago, Illinois, on a street called Eberhard. So 7238 Eberhard was my address. And so Chicago's like segregated. So my community was all black. Everybody being outside, playing outside, riding my big wheel. And yeah, I mean, I have fond memories of my community. I lived in a 3-floor, I guess, apartment building. You know what I'm saying? We were on the 2nd floor.
And who did you live with? Who was in that home?
So predominantly my mom. Like my dad was there early on. My dad left when I was maybe 2-3 years old. And so, but I remember him being there early on, but, mostly this was mom's, and my mom, held it down and, supported me and my sister. I remember being told, and I know it's like controversial now, like I remember being told like I was the man in the house. And it was kind of like, I'm a child, right? So it was kind of like, I really didn't necessarily know how to process that, right? Like, because I was the youngest, like I have an older sister. And so like, what did that mean to be like the man in the house and like, like a protector, but I'm young, right? So I remember like kind of struggling with that, but I definitely wasn't the class clown. I was the straight A student. I was kind of like the person that made sure all my homework was done. Like my mother like really emphasized that. And so, yeah, I was kind of that, that friend that would like follow everybody else. Like I would get into stuff, but I was never the leader of the drama, right? I was the one that followed everybody until the drama, and then got in trouble, you know what I'm saying? Because I followed.
So it's so interesting because I think of you obviously as such a leader now and as somebody who really sets the tone. How do you think that Eberhard prepared you for your work with One Hood?
The first time I went out at my little apartment complex where we moved, I got into a fight. First day, because it was a young white kid that was picking on 2 Indian kids. So I remember I beat him up and I got into a fight in school. I got suspended and my mother said, "You cannot get suspended." For my mom, education was everything. So my mom was like, "You can't fight because that's going to go on your permanent record and that's going to affect the school you go to, the college you get into." So she banned me from fighting, and that's how I got into activism, because I felt like, she raised me to be like socially conscious and to be black and be proud of that. So it was like, well, how do I respond? I can't physically fight. So at Gateway High School, like we started to do activism. So we started a club called Our Cultures for students of colors. We got the school to teach a Black history class at Gateway. And so that moment was what got me into activism. And really, because I was able to make changes at my school, it showed me like, oh, I can make changes in the world as well. So,
when you were growing up on Eberhard, were there artists that you loved that were inspiring to you?
The artist that really resonated with me the most was Bob Marley.
Wow.
And so Bob Marley's music, it was a spirituality. When Bob Marley comes up in Jamaica, the Rasta was like a religion that they didn't even want in the country. And now when you think of Jamaica, you think of Rasta, like he actually showed like how much of a change like we can make as artists, as activists. And so I think like when I came into hip hop as an artist, I wanted to make socially conscious music. I wanted to make music that could move people and to change people. And the songs that I've had that have resonated with folks, whether it was, a song about Oscar Grant, a song about Trayvon, like I always wanted my music to be in line with like a movement to kind of help our community and help our people move forward. And I think that was because of that connection that I had to Bob Marley and his music.